Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the lecture of complex analysis. Okay, so in last lecture we have seen what is a Riemann criteria, and after that we have seen what is a simple pole and order of pole. Depending on the definition of order of pole, we have seen what is a simple pole. Now today we have to see what is an annulus. Okay, so let us see. Annulus. What is an annulus? Okay, actually annulus is defined by AR1 R2. It is denoted by this symbol, that is annulus of AR1 R2. It contains all the complex number Z such that R1 is less than modulus of Z minus A and which is less than R2. Okay, so what is the annulus of AR1 R2? Here A is nothing but the center of that disk. R1 is nothing but the first circle, that is modulus of Z minus A less than greater than R1. It means if suppose somewhere here is our A, then what is first one? So this part is nothing but modulus of Z minus A less than R1. So its radius will be must be R1. Okay, and second part is nothing but modulus of Z minus A which is less than R2. It means that in as R1 is less than R2, then it means this one, and this distance is nothing but R2. Okay, so what is the annulus of a disk having center will be A and it has a two circles, that is with first circle is of radius R1 and second circle is of radius R2. That is, and what is the annulus of AR1 R2? It contains all the complex number Z for which R1 is less than Z minus A. It means here we have to take all those points which are outside this first circle, that is since modulus of Z minus A is greater than R1, it means these points, and which is less than R2, it means this region is nothing but, that is this region is nothing but annulus of AR1. Okay, that bluely shaded region is nothing but annulus of R1 R2. Now there are two types of annulus, open annulus and closed annulus. Whenever R1 is less than, strictly less than modulus of Z minus A, which is strictly less than R2, then it is called as a open annulus. Open annulus. And if R1 is less equal by Z minus modulus of Z minus A and which is less equal by R2, then it is called as a closed annulus. It means in open annulus, the boundary points are not involved in that annulus. That is these points, the points on the this red line and also on the green line. And in closed annulus, both the elements on both the lines are present. Okay, so that one is nothing but annulus. That is this shaded portion is nothing but annulus of A with radius R1 and R2. Okay, so that one is nothing but annulus. Now we know that what is a dense set. Any set yes is said to be dense in D if S closure is nothing but D. That is set of rational number is dense in R since Q closure is nothing but R. Okay, dense in R. If we see on the real line, then any set is said to be dense in R if every point of R is either a point of that set or it is a limit point of that set. As Q closure is nothing but set of real numbers, it means each real number is either a rational number or it is a limit point of a rational number. Hence, Q is a dense in R. So let us see what is a dense in X. Dense in capital X. Okay. If D closure is equal to X, then for any R greater than 0 and any X belonging capital X, open ball about X of radius R intersection D is non-empty. Okay, it means as D closure equal to X and we have to see a dense in X, it means we have to here D closure equal to X is means D is dense in X. It means every point of X is either a point of D or it is a limit point of D, and that one is nothing but this one. That is, if we take any point X is belonging to capital X, then its neighborhood contains at least one point of a given set D other than that element itself. Okay, so that one is nothing but the definition of dense set. Okay, now depending on this definition, there is one theorem which is nothing but the Casorati-Weierstrass theorem. Let us see the statement first. क्या सो रहा VS stars here, and it says that if F has an essential singularity at point z equal to a, then F annulus of a0 delta, annulus of point a0 delta is dense in complex number system. Is dense in complex number system for all delta greater than 0. That is, this set is dense in C. It means that is this set is dense in C. It means that closure of this one A0 delta closure is the whole complex number system. It means each point of C is either a member of this one or it is a limit point of this one. Okay, so that one we have to prove. Okay, so let us see the proof now. Suppose F is analytic as it has an essential singularity, then it must be a type of isolated singularity. And what is isolated singularity? If the function has isolated singularity at a point z equal to a, then it must be analytic in the deleted neighborhood of a. Okay, so as it has an essential singularity, then it must be analytic in the deleted neighborhood of z equal to a. So F is analytic in annulus of a0 r. Okay, and annulus of a0 r is nothing but annulus of a0 r is nothing but it contains all the complex number z such that modulus of z minus a is greater than 0 and which is strictly less than r. That one is nothing but annulus of a0 z. Now let us take b as annulus of a0 delta. Annulus of a0 delta, and we have to prove that f of annulus of a0 delta closure is equal to C. But annulus of a0 delta is nothing but D. That is to prove that f of D closure is equal to C. And that one we have to prove. And we know that by the definition of dense set, f of D closure is equal to C. It means each point of C is either a member of this f of D or it is a limit point of f of D. If and only for any epsilon greater than 0, and for any C which is belonging to complex number system such that open ball about C of radius epsilon intersection f of D is non-empty, which is by the definition of dense set. Since each as f of D closure will be equal to C, then each point of C is either a point of f of D or it is a limit point of f of D. Okay, so as open ball about C of radius epsilon intersection f of D is not equal to phi, it means it is non-empty. So let us take be any point which is belonging to this intersection. Intersection f of D, as it is belonging to the intersection of these two sets, then it must be belonging to both of these sets, which implies U is belonging to open ball about C of radius epsilon and U is belonging to f of D. Okay, U is belonging to open ball about C of radius epsilon. It means modulus of C minus U minus C is less than epsilon, which is just by the definition, less than epsilon, and U is belonging to f of D. It means U equal to some f of z whenever z is belonging to D, or some z belonging to D, some z belonging to D. but u equal to f of z, just put here, which implies f of z minus of c is less than epsilon. Modulus of f of z minus c is less than epsilon, since u equal to f of z for some z belonging to d. For some z is belonging to d. Okay, that is modulus of f of z minus of c is less than epsilon for some z belonging to d, where d is nothing but annulus of a0 delta. So for z belonging to annulus of a with 0 delta. Okay, and actually here that one is we have to prove. So therefore we have to prove that we have to prove that for any epsilon greater than 0, for any epsilon greater than 0, and for any c belonging to c, and for any small c belonging to a complex number system C, there exists some complex number Z which is belonging to upper annulus of A0 delta, that is D, such that modulus of f of Z minus C, modulus of f of Z minus C is less than epsilon for some Z belonging to D, that is 0 is less than modulus of Z minus C, which is less than delta, since it is nothing but the annulus of A0 delta. That one is we have to do. That is, it means if f of D closure will be equal to C, then it must hold this condition, that is modulus of f of Z minus C is less than epsilon. Whenever 0 is less than modulus of Z minus C less than delta. So whenever we will prove modulus of f of Z minus C is less than epsilon for some modulus of Z minus A greater than 0 and less than delta, then f of D closure must be equal to C, and that is we have to prove. Okay, let us take this one as a equation number 1. For proving this, here we will assume the contradiction that there is not a complex number C belonging to capital C for some Z belonging to D such that modulus of f of Z minus C is less than epsilon. It means here we will assume the contradiction that one is nothing but modulus of f of Z minus C is greater or equal by epsilon. Okay, so assume that equation 1 is not. Assume that 1 is not. 1 is not true, it means for some C belonging to complex number system C and for any epsilon greater than 0, modulus of f of Z minus C is greater or equal by epsilon. That is, for some C belonging to complex number system C and for some epsilon greater than 0, such that modulus of f of Z minus of C is greater or equal by epsilon for all Z belonging to 0 less than modulus of Z minus C, which is less than delta. Okay, therefore limit Z tending towards the point A, modulus of f of Z minus of C upon Z minus of A, that is modulus of Z minus A, is nothing but infinity. Since modulus of f of Z minus C is greater or equal by this epsilon, it means as limit in Z is tending towards the point A, this Z is tending towards A minus A will be 0, and that one will be greater or equal by epsilon. It means one of some constant divided by 0, which is must be infinity. As modulus of this quantity is infinity, then by the definition of pole, as the function as the given function has an essential singularity, the function has an isolated singularity at a point Z equal to A. Therefore, this total function is, as limit Z tending towards A, it gives the value infinity. Then by definition of pole, this function has a pole. Okay, which implies Z equal to A is a pole of the function f of Z minus of C divided by Z minus of A. So here let us assume that this will be a pole of order m, and this m is greater or equal by 1. Let m be the order of pole, and we know that what is the order of pole? It is always greater or equal by 1. So possibility for m is greater or equal by 1. Now which implies that z minus a to the power m plus 1. And we know that by the definition of pole, if the function f has a pole of order m, then z minus a to the power m into f of z must be a removable singularity. So here we will take z, so it implies that z minus a to the power m into this function f of z minus of c divided by z minus a, sorry, here we have to take m plus 1, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z minus c divided by z minus a has a removable singularity, at a point z equal to a, singularity at a point z equal to a, which is just by the definition of pole. Okay, therefore limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z minus of c divided by z minus of a into z minus a is equal to 0, which is by the theorem of removable singularity. Since if the function has a isolated singularity at the point z equal to a, then it must be a removable singularity if and only if limit z tending to a, z minus a into f of z will be equal to 0. As this function has a removable singularity at a point z equal to a, it means this one into z minus a will be equal to 0 whenever limit z is tending towards the point a, which implies this z minus a get cancelled. So limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z minus of c is equal to 0. Now let us consider a limit which is z tending towards the point a, z minus of a to the power m plus 1 into f of z. So it can be written as limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z minus of c plus c minus c get cancelled, of z minus of c plus. Okay, so it can be written as limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z minus of c into limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into a complex number c. Okay, now we know that limit z tending to a, z minus a to the power m plus 1, f of z minus c is nothing but 0. That is from this star, which is nothing but 0 into limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into c. Sorry, here limit z minus a minus, this one is nothing but plus 0 plus, here we have to take the plus. Okay, now which is equal to, this one is 0, but at z is tending towards the point a minus a will be 0, so it is 0 into c. As m is greater or equal by 1, then it is must be, its power must be positive. Okay, so 0 into c will be 0. So here we get limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z is equal to 0. Again by the definition of removable singularity, as limit z tending towards the point a, z minus a to the power m plus 1 into f of z. That is, it can be written as limit z tending towards the point a, z minus of a into z minus a to the power m into f of z is equal to 0. Let us take this one as a one first. As limit z tending to a, z minus a into this function is equal to 0, then this function has a removable singularity at a point z equal to a, which is by the definition of, that is one theorem of removable singularity, which implies z equal to a is removable singularity, removable singularity of the function z minus a to the power m into f of z. Again, as z equal to a is removable singularity of the function z minus a to the power m into f of z. That is, z minus a to the power m into f of z has a removable singularity at a point z equal to a. Then by the definition of pole, as this function has a removable singularity at point z equal to a, then the function f of z has a pole of order m at a point z equal to a, which implies f of z has a pole of order m, pole of order m at a point z equal to a, point z equal to a, and which is by the definition of pole. Okay, so the given function f of z has a, which implies z equal to a has a pole of order m of the given function f of z. Okay, so as it has a pole, but we know that the given function has an essential singularity at a point z equal to a. But here we get the given function has a pole of order m at a point z equal to a. So which is contradiction, which is contradiction, and this contradiction arises to our wrong assumption. That is, they for some epsilon greater than 0 and for any c belonging to c, f modulus of f of z minus c is greater or equal by epsilon. So this assumption will be wrong, and hence, which implies modulus of f of z minus of c is less than epsilon for some z belonging to this region. Okay, and as this satisfies, then by the equation 1, so by equation 1, f of d closure must be equal to a complex number system. That is, f of d closure, d closure is nothing but, sorry, annulus of a0 delta, and closure of all these, and which is equal to complex number system, and that is we have to prove, and hence the required result. Okay, so each point of a complex number system is either a member of this annulus of f of annulus of a0 delta, or it is a limit point of this f of annulus of a0 delta. Okay, and hence the required result. So now there is one note depending on the Casorati-Weierstrass theorem. Actually, what is a Casorati-Weierstrass theorem? Okay, so from the Casorati-Weierstrass theorem, Weierstrass theorem, we proved that if z equal to a is an essential singularity of a function f, then f of z comes arbitrary close to any complex number as z is tending towards, which is just by this one. That is, whenever f of annulus of e0 delta closure will be equal to c, it means each complex number is either a member of this set or it is a limit point of that set, and that one is nothing but f of z comes arbitrarily close to any complex number whenever z is belonging to this region. That is, whenever z is tending towards the point a and a is an essential singularity of a function. Yeah. Okay, that is, in a neighborhood of essential singularity, an analytic function comes arbitrarily closer to arbitrarily close to every complex number, just by our Casorati-Weierstrass theorem. So this one is nothing but the Casorati-Weierstrass theorem. Now we have to see what is the Laurent series development. And before going towards the development of Laurent series, there are some important notes. In that, first one is nothing but a series of the form, n running from minus infinity to infinity, an into z minus a to the power n is called a double series about a double series about a point z equal to. Okay, so any series which is of the form series n running from minus infinity to infinity a n into z minus a to the power n is called a double series about the point z equal to a. Now second note, the double series is said to be the double series is said to be absolutely convergent, absolutely convergent when the series convergent if series n running from 0 to or 1 to minus 1 to minus infinity, minus 1 to minus of infinity a n z minus e to the power n and series n running from 0 to infinity a n z minus e to the power n. The sum of both the series is nothing but the total double sum series, that is series n running from minus infinity to infinity a n z minus e to the power n. And if both these series are absolutely convergent, then the corresponding double series is also absolutely convergent. So both the series are absolutely convergent. Are absolutely convergent. If both the series n running from minus 1 to minus infinity a n z minus e to the power n and series n running from 0 to infinity a n into z minus e to the power n. If these both series are absolutely convergent, then the corresponding double series is also absolutely convergent. Okay, what is absolutely convergent? Any series n running from 0 to infinity a n z raised to n is said to be absolutely convergent if series n running from 0 to infinity modulus of a n z raised to n is a convergent. Okay, that one is nothing but the absolutely convergence. So whenever this double series is said to be absolutely convergent, when these two series are absolutely convergent. Now the last node, the double series, that is series n running from minus infinity to infinity a n z minus e to the power n is uniformly convergent, is said to be uniformly convergent, said to be uniformly convergent, convergent if series n running from minus 1 to minus infinity a n z minus e to the power n and series n running from 0 to infinity a n z minus e to the power n, both the series are uniformly convergent. Both the series are uniformly convergent. Okay, it is same as absolutely convergence. Okay, since any double series is said to be absolutely convergent when both the series are absolutely convergent. Similarly, any double series is said to be uniformly convergent in both the series, that is series n running from minus 1 to infinity a n z minus e to the power n and series n running from 0 to infinity a n z minus e to the power n. If these both series are absolutely uniformly convergent, then the corresponding double series is also uniformly convergent. Okay, these are some important things which are used, that is which are useful in our Lorentz series development. Okay, so remember this. So in today's lecture, we have seen first what is the annulus of A0 delta, annulus of AR1 R2. It contains all the complex number for which modulus of Z minus A is greater than R1 and which is less than modulus of Z minus A is less than R2. That is in between these two portions, the region is nothing but the annulus of AR1 R2. And depending on the annulus of AR1 R2, we have seen what is the causality Weierstrass theorem. Causality Weierstrass theorem says that if the function f of z has an isolated singularity, and that is particularly essential singularity at a point z equal to a, then each complex number is arbitrarily close to the every point of f of d, where d is nothing but annulus of a0 delta. That one is nothing but causality Weierstrass theorem, and these are some important things which are required for our Lorentz series development. Okay, so in next lecture we will see what is a Lorentz series development. Thank you for watching the lecture.